Hi, future and current middle level teachers. Welcome to Module 3 of Principles and Practices of Middle School Teaching. This week we'll be focusing on guiding young adolescents. We have a couple of readings. First off, in teaching in the middle school, you'll be looking at Chapter 3, Guiding Young Adolescents, Teachers and Counselors. And there are some questions, self-check multiple choice questions that go along with that reading that you can do in the D2L quiz area. Also, this week, for classroom instruction that works, we're going to go to Chapter 1, Setting Objectives and Providing Feedback. Next week, we'll look at using technology that goes with Chapter 1, Setting Objectives and Providing Feedback. So those are your two readings for this week. Also, I wanted to let you know that your new discussion synthesis questions are up in the D2L content area, and I was very pleased with the chats that were going on in the three groups. And what I'd like to see now that you've kind of got the hang of chatting and so on, I'd like for you to get a time set up each week so that you can chat about the questions that you want to do. Obviously, you'll want to take a look at the questions that are up there to see which ones apply to this week, because some of them on the list will apply to next week. So a little bit about the discussion synthesis. As I was looking on Google Docs yesterday as some of the groups were working, I will have you keep the same groups throughout the semester. I know this is different for those of you that have had me in other classes where we've had discussion boards, but this is a little bit different because of the fact that you're using the chat room and then also Google Docs. But I do want you to make certain that you're setting up times to meet weekly to discuss the pertinent guiding questions. And for the third group where Glenn is involved, remember that Glenn is in Eastern time, so you'll have to set up your time. They are 2 hours ahead of us. So anyway, but it should work out all right. And then something too about what I've seen on the writing, which I told some people yesterday when I was watching them write on the Google Docs. Of course I want you to address the questions, but I don't want it just to be, okay, here's the question and here's my response. You want to write it as a narrative, so that means you might have to include some of that information that was asked in the question. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, one of the groups had used color to highlight what each person had contributed to the paper, which I thought that was a great idea because it shows who was doing what. The idea is that you work together to have some type of balance in the questions that you respond to. It could be that you respond to every single one. I do think that that's better. I don't want it that, okay, I'm just going to you can have certain people be the leads on certain questions, but I do believe that it is best if everyone gives some type of input into the questions. And also, thank you for sharing your documents with me yesterday. However, when you set up your Google Doc, just include me when you set out the invitation. That way, not to be a snoop, but that way I can see how the paper is progressing from the beginning too. So it's not like I'm going to be looking over your shoulder the entire time, but I like to make certain that everybody is participating, which again, for the groups, the people that have been active in the class thus far, there was good participation. Glenn just started, so I'm not counting on him, and then hopefully one of our other people that is in the class will get on board shortly. So that being said, I want to talk a little bit about our class wiki. And on our homepage, we've got a, oops, didn't show up there. Up here, you'll see where it says surveys. In our Google Docs where we did our sign up, there was a question about, what type of template should we use, or should we just make our own? Because it's actually time to start building that. And I don't want you to freak out because, oh, there's not a whole lot of guidelines. This is to help us all learn what it means to make a class wiki. My intent again is there's a lot of good resources that are available from your text, and I want them to be in a single place where you can access them once you finish the class, because you won't have access to D2L afterwards. That being said, just looking at the Google Docs, just to give some of you a heads up on that, some of the information as far as getting things up on the wiki. Chapter 1 and 2 have been talked about already or you've had to read it. So Kylie and Lisha will deal with that. And also we'll be talking about chapter 3 this week. And then concerning using technology with classroom instruction that works, we'll have cooperative learning, which was what we dealt with last week. And then this week, next week actually, we're talking about it in the actual book, but we'll do the using technology next week. And Isaac, you'll notice I added you here. I didn't realize that I had missed chapter 3 on there, and so since that was something that needed to be done, I just put your name on there. And hopefully Glenn will help me be kind of the overall editor and design person, since nobody wanted to sign up for that. So if you have any questions, again, please post them to the discussion board, and I hope that you have a great week. Thanks for listening.